The 4 o'clock hour is here.
It's fun time!
And you're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
I do think AJ DeBonta is going to be the first one off the board. I've talked to several teams, and they kind of seem to think that as well. But then when you are 2, 3, and 4, and you're looking at either Darren Peterson, Cameron Boozer, or Caleb Wilson, you cannot go wrong. I don't care what sort of situation you're in. If you get one of those 4 players in this year's draft, that is a win. I don't care. Like, you cannot convince me otherwise. And then 5 through 11, I'm calling it the point guard lottery.
This is Jake and Ben on 97.5. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Little 4 o'clock review right there. We had Kristen Peak on with us in the 3 o'clock hour, and Kristen giving us a breakdown of prospects and talking about AJ DeBonta. It certainly feels that way, Ben, that he is, well, how did I put it, has the pole position for the number 1 pick.
He is the biggest. Well, he's not the biggest. Cam Boozer's big, but he's got the best positional size. He had the best individual production. He didn't have the most winning. That was Cam Boozer for sure. But I think his athletic tools, his positional size, his individual production, and his still potential and availability, which is where Darren Peterson really missed out, all favor him. And I think I won't be surprised if, as we get a couple of weeks out, it just becomes a consensus. AJ's number 1, and who's in the running for 2, 3, 4.
Speaking of the NBA, Ben, Shams Charania and his slicked back hair have a report. I'll just read right from it. The NBA has disclosed to its 30 general managers a new anti-tanking draft reform termed the 3-2-1 lottery. That includes expanding the lottery to 16 teams, flattened odds, and a relegation zone where the bottom 3 teams will be penalized with fewer lottery balls for the number 1 pick, starting with the 2027 draft, sources told to ESPN.
I just got to read this a little bit more just to kind of get the information out, and then we can diagnose how badly this is going to fail. The 3-2-1 lottery proposal, named to represent the number of lottery balls per team, would expand the lottery from 14 to 16 teams, as you mentioned. Teams that do not qualify for the playoffs or play in tournament, but stay out of the relegation zone, spots 4 through 10, which the Jazz would be in the, quote, relegation zone right now, would receive 3 lottery balls each. Teams with a bottom 3 record, a.k.a. the relegation area, would have just 2 lottery balls, but have a floor of the 12th pick, while the rest of the 13 lottery teams could fall as far as the 16th pick. The 9th and 10th play-in seeds, each in each conference, receive 2 lottery balls, while each of the losers of the 7 to 8 play-in receive 1 lottery ball each. So do we understand teams 4 through 8, how many lottery balls they actually get?
No, that didn't make any sense.
Yeah, is it 4 through 8? So if you're one of the 3 worst teams in the NBA, you get fewer lottery balls to encourage or to discourage teams from absolutely falling to the bottom the way the Jazz did last year, the way the Wizards did last year, right? He's saying these teams with a bottom 3 record, the relegation area, would have just 2 lottery balls. But it seems like everybody else in the lottery from 4 to 10, if I'm reading this right, would have 3 lottery balls. And then if you're outside of that, 11 to 16, you would get 1 lottery ball?
The middle, but what's the relegation zone? The bottom or the middle?
Yeah, why
that
did the
doesn't make
middle
any
be
sense.
The relegation zone?
Yeah, saying that this is. I think the hair gel has gotten into Sham's brain. It says teams that do not qualify for the playoffs or play in tournament but stay out of the relegation zone, spots 4 through 10. That doesn't make any sense. So what's the bottom? Thought the bottom was the relegation zone that are losing 2.
Teams that don't qualify for the playoffs or play in tournament, but stay out of the relegation zone, which is 4 through 10. So this means teams 1 through 3 and teams 11 through 16 would receive 3 lottery balls each. Teams with a bottom 3 record, which he then calls the relegation area. Yeah, he just wrote this poorly. This has not been edited very well because nobody knows what's going on here, which is, I think, what we predicted. And I mean this honestly, like this writing is incorrect. He contradicts himself within this area because at one point he says stay out of the relegation zone, spots 4 through 10.
He's saying the spots 4 through 10 are the teams that
are
don't
outside
qualify
of the relegation zone. Oh,
Right.
okay.
That's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
how he wrote it.
That's
and
not
by
how
the
it
way,
works. Okay.
It is incredibly confusing. You kind of have to read it out loud.
he
I just did several times. It didn't make any
Right.
sense.
he reported this like 10 minutes ago, so this
Yeah.
is like hot off the press.
Teams
So,
that do not qualify for the playoffs or teams that stay out of the relegation zone. So what he's meaning is those are teams 4 through 10. They are not in the relegation
Yeah,
zone.
okay.
The way he wrote it makes it sound like they
They
are
were.
in the relegation zone. Relegation will now be 1, 2, and 3. Teams in the relegation zone only get 2 lottery balls. So if you have one of the 3 worst records in the NBA, so if we pull this up right now, I'll pull up Tankathon right in front of me, and
it's the Wizards, the Pacers,
and the Brooklyn Nets. They would have 2 lottery balls each. The Jazz at 4 through 10, which I think is the Bucks, would all have 3 lottery balls. And then teams 11 through 16, which would be the Warriors, the Clippers, the Heat, the Hornets, the Trailblazers, and the Suns, would all have 1 lottery ball, which is fewer than the top 3 teams. In fact, it's half as many. But it's a third as many as teams not in the relegation zone, which is obviously teams 4 through 10. So ideally, no, the relegation zone, is teams 1 through 3. The non-relegation zone teams 4 through 10 is now the sweet spot of the NBA.
so lose on purpose, but not too much.
But in this situation, the Jazz would have been would have been fine finishing with as many wins as the Milwaukee Bucks. And I think Milwaukee, let me pull up the standings, finished with over 30 wins. So the Jazz could have gone from 22 wins to what the Milwaukee Bucks had, which was 32 wins, which is a 10-game difference. And I certainly remember hearing people every Saturday when I went out on the town saying, I can't wait to watch Milwaukee Bucks basketball this weekend. That 29-win team has the type of talent I'm looking to tune into on a nightly basis.
Okay, this is way too convoluted, which I kind of find hilarious. But the structural problems of this cat in the wall that we were talking about yesterday still remain. Now you're going to have teams tanking to get out of the playoffs and out of the play-in. So now instead of the bottom of the league that nobody cares about losing games on purpose, you're going to have the middle of the league losing games on purpose. But the bottom of the league is going to try like heck to win at least a couple more games in February, so you got that going for you. But you'd have teams like the Bucks losing all sorts of games or pulling the plug in February because they don't want to make the playoffs. It's just silly. You're just changing the teams that tank. You're not fixing anything. You're just changing the teams that lose on purpose.
Respectfully,
Silly.
I wish you would refer to these teams as relegation zones or non-relegation zones, but I will let that pass for now. No, you're exactly right. This is exactly what we said was going to happen yesterday. And in fact, it's maybe even more egregious than I thought. Because, Jake, let me ask you this. If you have a chance to win Victor Wembanyama, and the most lottery balls you can get is 3, how many lottery balls do you want to have? 3. Now, if you're at number 10 and you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you have 3. And if you're at number 11 and you're the Golden State Warriors, you have 1. So tell me what your strategy is to improve your odds of getting Victor Wembanyama.
Booting games.
Lose.
Yep.
Now who's losing?
The middle of the league.
The Warriors.
Instead of the bottom.
Clippers, the Heat, the Hornets, and the Blazers and Suns. So they all want to lose to triple their odds of getting 3 lottery balls as opposed to just 1.
So they'll get to 30 wins and then just stop.
So these middle-class teams, or worse yet, you're going to have teams saying, we have to start tanking at the beginning of the season because once we get to that 11 to 16 range, we're never going to catch up to any of the teams that are at 10 because they've been tanking all year long to make sure that they have one of the bottom 10 spots, but not tanking so badly that they have a relegation zone bottom 3 record. So you're going to have a bunch of teams saying, we'll win 1 out of every 4 games, and we're going to have the best odds that exist in the NBA to go draft a player. And now it's only going to be 8% or whatever. We can do the math here of 6 teams having 3%. We'd have to look at how many total lottery balls there are. But essentially, yes, you have flipped who's tanking. And I think there's a real argument that this is going to make it worse because the middle-class tanking means far fewer good teams because, as I was just joking, also, Adam Silver, nobody wanted to watch the Milwaukee Bucks or the Chicago Bulls or the New Orleans Pelicans or the Memphis Grizzlies or the Utah Jazz or the Sacramento Kings play this year. Nobody wanted to watch them. No casual fan would ever tune into one of their games. And those are the non-relegation teams who you're rewarding.
It's like any good cat in the wall. It makes the situation worse. That's the whole. That's the whole point of the.
Wall,
yes,
eh?
that's the saying. You are not only did it not fix the problem, but you actually have another cat in your wall. And in fact, it's conflicting with the play-in cat that is now kind of irrelevant.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course it's irrelevant because that was just a
Stupid one.
alternate to something totally different.
Yeah.
So let me see here. 6 teams get 3 balls each. That's 18 balls.
So do you
6
think they're
teams
hoping
get
that
1
teams
ball.
like the Jazz or the Wizards next year would want to be a play-in team? Because the Jazz or the Wizards theoretically aren't going to want to be bad forever. They're going to have to take a step forward at some point, right?
Well, that's the
I
problem
think that's
with this.
what Adam Silver is thinking is that's who the play-in teams will be, is these teams exiting rebuilds.
That's
I guess.
But that's the problem altogether, is that tanking served a purpose, and it wasn't tanking to tank. It was tanking to stop sucking. You tanked to get good players so you could stop tanking. When you stop rewarding teams for being bad and allowing themselves to get out, you're going to have teams that can truly never get out of the basement. The tanking thing stunk, don't get me wrong, but there was an actual way to get out of it by getting a couple of good players in back-to-back drafts and then not continuing to be at the bottom of the NBA. Tanking worked, which is why people did it, but not every team tanked every single year, and so your individual local fan base could divert after a couple of seasons the same way the Jazz were already planning their exit this year, regardless of the rules that Adam Silver made. There are going to be a total of 30 draft balls, 18 teams for the non-relegation zone teams, that's 6 through 10, if I'm reading this correctly in the 3-2-1 proposal. 6 teams, 11 through 16, each get 1 ball, so that's 6. 6 plus 18 is 24. And then the bottom 3 teams each get 2 balls, if I'm reading this correctly. So that's another 6. So there's 30 balls total. So if you get one of the 3, the teams 4 through 10 each have a 10% chance of winning the lottery. Number 1 overall. Teams that have only 2 lottery balls have what? What's 2 divided by, or 30? 2 divided by 30, I don't know exactly what that number is. 0.6? Yes, 0.6% chance, or a 6% chance. And then if you have a 1%, you have a 3% chance. So that's about how it works. 4 through 6 has a 10% chance of winning the lottery, which, by the way, is exactly where the Jazz are right now. They have a 10% chance of winning the draft lottery today. Worst 3 teams in the NBA only have a 6% chance, and then the better teams, non-playoff teams, have a 3% chance. It's not going to fix anything. It's going to make the middle class. It's going to kill the middle class of the NBA, which I think is already the problem, and they need to make that better. And they're doing the opposite. And then what will make it, I guess, more interesting for 45 minutes, but who cares, is that the entire lottery will be determined 1 through 16. Because the teams actually that have only a 6% chance, which are relegation zone teams, follow me here, teams 1 through 3, worst records in the NBA, can only fall to 12, I believe, is the suggestion that Shams outlined here. So you do have a backstop, while the Jazz conceivably could have the 4th worst record in the NBA and could fall to 16.
Yeah, I agree, man. This is really dumb.
It's a lot.
It's really dumb.
It's a lot of cats.
Honestly, they really should just get rid of the draft. Just develop your own players. I liked our idea we came up with on bid for draft picks, but nobody seems to be considering. Nobody apparently listens to the Jake and Ben show. Because we thought, hey, why not put them up for bid, put them up for auction? And that money goes against your cap. So if you want the first pick, if you've got Victor Wembanyama, well, you better have $20 million in cap room to bid on the pick.
I also heard another format that's very similar to that, which is if you have the worst record in the NBA, you get, let's say $30 million, but you can bid on any pick in the draft, 1 through 30. So if you say, hey, 1 actually isn't going to do it for me, I don't want to spend $30 million, but can I buy the 5th pick and the 12th pick for my $30 million combined? Good. I got 2 picks in the first round. And then some draft team or some team that says, hey, we actually want the salary cap space. We'll take your money and we'll use that to put towards an actual established player. I thought that was kind of interesting as well. So, yeah, this option to fix tanking is just going to cause teams to want to get into that 4 through 10 spot, which, again, the problem is nobody wants to watch teams in the 4 through 10 spot. Mm-hmm. That's still really bad basketball. But it's going to be the prized position now in the NBA is to sit 4 through 10 because you have a 10% chance of winning the lottery.
Adam Silver has made a comment to Shams.
Okay.
Let's see here. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver on a recent competition committee call, according to sources, quote, "We should have a system where you should hate to lose. It shouldn't be a badge of honor. Losing should be uncomfortable," unquote. Well, I don't think this accomplishes that.
Yeah. At all. Nope.
No, now you just have it's different teams losing.
No, honestly, if you're going to do this, just do the lottery for all 30 teams. I'm not kidding. Everyone gets 3%, and then you can't win the top 3 picks in back-to-back years. That way you don't end up randomly getting a champion who gets Victor Wembanyama and then the next year gets Cooper Flagg or whatever. I know they didn't go back-to-back, but whatever. Just that way. That's fine. If you want to have parity, and that's how you think to do it, you can't have back-to-back top 5 picks. Everyone gets 3%. Great. Then the best you can do if you win the lottery is drop to 6. That's fine. Whatever. But this is not fixing anything. And what you would actually do if you make it so only teams have a 3% chance. And by the way, this does hurt the Jazz. No question about it. This would hurt teams. Tanking is a good small market tool to get star-level players. But it just totally forces your front office to try and do better work acquiring talent through trades and through free agency versus just relying solely on the draft, which is why tanking is such an issue right now.
NHL writer for Sportsnet, Luke Fox, is going to jump on with us to talk some Stanley Cup playoffs. We're going to do that coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
I'm here on the job site with Dale, who's a framing contractor.
Hey, good morning.
Dale traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance for all his business vehicles. We're here where he needs us most.
Yep, they sure are.
We make it easy for him to save on all his insurance needs, all in one place, with coverage that fits his business and bottom line. Oh, I shouldn't have looked down.
It's all right.
We're so far up here.
Look at me. Take a deep breath.
No, I'm good. So good.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at geico.com and see how much you could save. It feels good to Geico.
Not only do these guys give you the best Jazz coverage in the market, wow, they've got you covered with the Mammoth, the Cougars, the Utes, and the Aggies. This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's time to talk some Stanley Cup playoffs and some Utah Mammoth. Let's get out to the zone phone. He covers the NHL for Sportsnet. He's Luke Fox with us here on Jacob Ben. Hi, Luke. How are you?
Hey, Luke.
I'm doing well. A little tired because I've been sucked in by the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I'm on Eastern Standard Time, but I can't help myself. I end up staying up late and watching every single game on the West Coast, even if it goes into overtime or threatens double overtime like last night.
Yeah, so what do you think of this series so far? Give us maybe a big picture perspective of a national or maybe even international view of how the Mammoth and Golden Knights are looking.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's fast, high-octane series. A little bit of controversy, but it's the guys are playing hard, like they're checking hard, but it hasn't got into the antics that some of the other series have gotten into. It's just really fun hockey, and I think one of the things that I've been impressed most by, and I'm not surprised by it because I went to the Delta Center twice, once this year and once last year for a game. And I love how, it's built for basketball, but the way it's built is the crowd is almost on top of the ice. And I was talking to some of the players and they felt like it's really unique atmosphere in that way, in that the crowd seems to almost have more of an impact in the energy of the building than in some of the other places. So I've loved being able to watch that, and it comes through on the broadcast, just the energy of the building, the fact that this franchise is getting to host its first playoff games, I think has been phenomenal. And the fact that they got treated to a win the first game and a really tight, exciting game last night with a thrilling comeback. Playoffs is so tight that usually once a team goes up 3-0, they lock it down, especially a veteran team like Vegas. So the fact that Utah came back and made it such an exciting game, pushed it to overtime, it was a banger. It was fun. It's been great hockey, and honestly, I picked the Mammoth for an upset, but I honestly think you could flip a coin here because these teams seem evenly matched.
Luke, with the Mammoth, obviously moving here recently, I admit that I am still getting to know a lot of the nuance with the NHL. And with this matchup, it appears that Golden State is a real physical, the physical reputation uses physicality, whereas the Mammoth have kind of leaned into speed. So which is usually an effective strategy in the playoffs, or what usually comes down to determine who comes out on top between teams that have such different styles?
Yeah, and it really in the playoffs, it does become like almost like, they say that about boxing, right? Like styles make fights. And because the two teams play a best of 7 and see each other night after night, and the coaches make adjustments based on what the other team is doing, styles really come into play. I can't sit here and say, speed always trumps physicality or vice versa. You actually, in my mind, you need a bit of both. I'll give you an example. The Carolina Hurricanes have long been a very fast team. And they've always made the playoffs, and they have this reputation for winning a couple rounds. But then ultimately, they, take last year, for example, they ran into a team that's pretty fast, but is way more physical in the Florida Panthers. And they made very quick work of them. So you almost need a blend of everything. You need some skill, you need some grit, you need some speed, you need some toughness. And in my mind, that's what makes hockey such a fun sport. It's also, I find it to be a blend of, skill and luck, just because you're playing with a frozen puck on ice. And, you guys have watched, like a puck will hit the post. Imagine if that was 2 inches the other way. Or a guy, high sticks a guy by accident. What if it misses the face? Then you don't have a power play. So there's an element of flukiness to hockey that makes it unpredictable, but I think it adds to the drama of it all and makes it a harder to predict sport than maybe some of the others. Like I think if you were to take an analyst who watches NBA, he'd probably hit on more of his first round predictions than a hockey analyst would because of that mystery element to it.
So, Luke, looking at the Mammoth, what storylines are you pulling out? Because I looked late in the season, and it started to feel like Logan Cooley was becoming the face of the team. And obviously with Keller going to the Olympics, he had a lot of run, but the production late, and then the first few games, I thought he was the best player on the ice. That was my perspective. But are you seeing anything that's kind of maybe changing the perspective of the Mammoth?
Well, the goalie duel is interesting to me because Vegas has struggled to find its starter due to injury, and Carter Hart was kind of a late signing. He's been out of the league. He's been battling some legal troubles, and he was kind of a mystery box. Ironically, he actually played under John Tortorella, the Golden Knights coach that they just hired with like a week to go in the regular season, which was wild. So they have some familiarity there, and he trusts him. But Vejmelka, I'm a big fan of his, and he's always had really solid regular seasons. And, if the Mammoth or previously the Coyotes came up short, no one said, oh, it was because of Vejmelka. He actually kept them in a lot of games. But this is his first time, seeing the big stage and getting tested in the playoffs, and it's a whole different animal. So the goaltending duel is kind of an interesting one to me. The other one is Dylan Guenther. I mean, this guy can shoot a puck. Like, holy cow. And he's so young. And, the fact that that they have him for years and years, I think is very exciting for Salt Lake City. And you always wonder about young guys, like, will the lights be a little bit too bright for them? And I would say it hasn't been. And I would say same thing with, some of the young Anaheim Ducks who are getting their first taste of playoff action. And, if Utah is to survive, that's the team they might face next because they're up on the Edmonton Oilers, and that series goes again tonight.
What did you think about Vegas canning their coach with 2 weeks to go and hiring Tortorella? Bold move or kind of wacky?
Yeah, it was bold. It was bold. You rarely see it, especially when they were in playoff position when they did it. And it just speaks to the urgency of that franchise, and I think it's a little bit on brand. They've always been kind of ruthless in how they conduct their business, whether it's a high-end free agent that becomes available. They'll find a way to get that guy, even if it means shipping other guys out who've been, long-standing Golden Knights. I think of Marc-Andre Fleury was one of the original Golden Knights, and he was like an icon there. You'd see Fleury sweaters everywhere. But once things soured, they didn't waste any time trading him away, getting rid of him. Riley Smith was an original Golden Knight. They got rid of him. They brought him back just recently. They kind of do anything at all costs to win. And I think if you're a fan of a team, you got to admire that to some respect. But Bruce Cassidy, the guy that they fired to bring in Tortorella, is a heck of a coach. And he's going to be the most valuable free agent coach on the market this summer. And I have no doubt he'll have a choice of a handful of teams to pick where he lands, because he's going to be very valuable, especially now that Peter DeBoer, who was a free agent, got snapped up by the Islanders right at the end of the regular season.
Looking big picture around the NHL, what trends are you seeing that are winning? And are these different trends? Is this a new style of hockey, or are we seeing a revolution of any kind, of like where the sport is headed, how things are changing?
It's becoming higher scoring. I would say that. Save percentages as a whole are on the decline, and they have been for, I think it's like about 6 years gradually. But this year, the league save percentage was below 900, which was a bit of a shocker. I never quite thought we'd get to that rate. But shots are down. So one of the big trends is teams are being more selective, not just throwing any puck at the net. They're trying to get the better scoring chance. But the shooters have gotten better than the goalies of late. That's one trend. And I also think there's a youth movement afoot. And part of that's in Utah, part of that's in Anaheim. Montreal on the Eastern Conference side of the bracket is a young, exciting team. Philly has the lead on a veteran team like Pittsburgh, who has legends in Letang and Malkin and Crosby. And the Flyers are young and inexperienced, but they're fast and they're hungry and they're skilled. So I think that's a major trend. For years and years, the NHL was really big on, you got to be playoff hardened. You have to have experience. The old guys know the ways. And there seems to be a turning of the corner. Today you look, the Ted Lindsay Award goes to the best player as voted by his peers. And Macklin Celebrini, a teenager, was among those names. And it just goes to show you that the young stars are kind of taking over here.
The Avalanche smoked the Kings. Is it the Avalanche's conference to lose?
It is. It is. Making quick work of your opponent in round one is really critical in hockey, more so than basketball or baseball, in my opinion, just because it is such a physical sport. So they get a bunch of extra days for their bruises to heal, to start strategizing about and watching the Wild and the Stars. So the winner of that series is who they'll get. So they get the benefit of rest, which is so hard to come by in hockey, especially this season, because the schedule was truncated because of the Olympics. So teams were playing almost every other day. So the fact that they're going to have nearly a week off before their next round just benefits them all the more. And plus, they check all the boxes, right? They have high-end game breakers up front, like Gabriel Landeskog and Martin Necas and Nathan McKinnon. They have, for my money, the best defenseman in the world in Cale Makar. And their goalies, were a question mark coming into the season, Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood, but they've been excellent this year. They won the Jennings Trophy for fewest goals allowed. So they kind of have a little bit of everything. And they're not too far removed from lifting the big trophy at the end. That was 2022. So they know what it takes. So I absolutely think they're the favorites. But like we talked about before, it's a wild sport. There's other teams that will build confidence as the tournament goes deeper. So it's no guarantee.
So, Luke, Florida wins the Stanley Cup in back-to-back years, misses the playoffs this season. How common is continuity from year to year as far as who's in the playoffs, who's expected to be back? Winnipeg had such a great season last year and struggled this year. So should we expect these teams that are here this year, especially at the top, to be back next season?
You should expect a good chunk of them. This year was unusual in terms of turnover. I want to say there was 6 or 7 teams that made the playoffs this year that didn't last year, and that was high. But there's always some. There's always like 3 or 4. It's not, hockey I find is very cyclical, and part of that is by design through the salary cap and guys just aging out or teams running out of money and resources to keep their good guys, so they go back into the system. And then the draft and develop model is so huge in the sport that, if you're near the bottom for a while, which is what the Coyotes were before they became the Mammoth, you accrue lots of picks and prospects, and hopefully you develop a young core that grows up together and gets good together. And we're seeing a little bit of that in Utah. We're definitely seeing that in Montreal and in Anaheim. And those teams should be good for 6-7 years. It seems like a cycle, but eventually you reach the mountaintop and then you come crashing down. Like the Chicago Blackhawks were a force in the 2010s. They were the standard of the league. And right now they're on one of the longest droughts. So they're on the bottom half of the cycle, and they're rebuilding around Connor Bedard, who is their superstar, their version of Macklin Celebrini. But they're hopefully on the rise. And it is very cyclical like that. But, if you have a young, good team, there's a good chance it's going to stay relevant for a half decade at least.
Hey, Luke, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. And, hopefully you won't mind if we bug you again throughout the playoffs.
No, not at all. And enjoy the ride, guys. It looks like quite a scene. I'm a little bit jealous that I haven't been able to see one of those games in person, but I'm hitting the road soon. And the deeper the Mammoth go, the better chance I'm going to be able to experience Mammoth playoff hockey in person.
Ben and I broadcast from the plaza outside of the arena on Friday. We got chased off yesterday by some rain, but I mean it was a party.
4 hours before the game.
4 hours.
Full.
Yeah, it was wild. So if you get a chance, Luke, come on out and see us. And hey, we'll put you in studio.
Okay. Can I ride the Mammoth?
Oh, dude, we can work that out. Ben's connected. He's dialed in. We can make that happen.
At the very least, I've got like an old pickup truck. You can roll around town.
Right. We can fake it.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Luke.
All right. Take care, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Luke.
Luke Fox, NHL writer for Sportsnet.
Like that?
Thank you, Christian. Had to catch up on that.
But yeah.
We'll have to remember Luke. He was really good.
Really good.
That was super good info.
And a good sign, Mammoth, I don't want to say squeaked in. They made the wild card, and they were the top wild card spot, but he says, you make the playoffs and you've got a good young core, the odds of you sticking around are pretty good in the NHL. So that's, as we talked about this, I'm sure we'll talk about it more at 5 o'clock. This is all a part of the process. This is the build. This is getting back to relevancy and getting back to being a team that ideally, if you're a fan, can compete at the highest level. And this is just part of that process. But you're young and you're well situated to be around.
Coming up next, we have the Audio Vault. And man, I think we've got a good one today.
Okay.
I think we've got a good one today. You and I are both radio bozos, and we both, I think I can speak for you on this, enjoy a good radio bozo meltdown.
Yes. And you and I both also have insufferable egos, but maybe not quite as much as the next guy.
Who I actually kind of know.
Okay.
So we'll get to that coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
No crazy soundbite slips past these guys.
Oh my God!
This is another edition of the Audio Vault with Jake and Ben on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. See this Def Leppard photograph. This is a great tune.
Okay, Rossini, real taste.
Turning the page. I think if I had to guess, this is one of the ones Vrabel played at practice.
Quickly, before we get to the Audio Vault, speaking of Rossini, do you have text language with your wife? Do you have words that you use in text that you spell differently on purpose? You wouldn't.
Look who you're talking to. No.
Okay. So my wife, when she texts me, and because she does this, I respond. I text her THO for though instead of THOUGH. I always feel a little silly about it, and I don't do that to anybody else. If I text you, I won't say though. Or Christian, I won't say though, TOH. I'll say the whole thing. Embarrassing to call a playlist running or turning the page and not taking the G off?
Embarrassing?
I'm a little corny. It's a little corny. I'm a little embarrassed for Diana. Of all of this, leaving the G off of turning the page is up there for the most embarrassing things that she's
I think it's more embarrassing. She put Lotto on it. Lotto, by the way, because you guys don't know, I'm sure a lot of our listeners probably don't know Lotto. She's like a rapper, my generation, female rapper. So I think it's a little weird that Diana Rossini listens to Lotto.
He's into Lotto.
We're not talking about the silk soccer shorts, Lotto. You know, are those still a thing? You know what I'm talking
I
about?
have no idea what you're talking about.
Really? You never had a pair of Lottos growing up? The soccer shorts? LOTTO?
I'm looking them up right now.
It's like
No, I'm only getting photos of this rapper.
Oh
wearing
yeah,
shorts.
no, they were like your quintessential like.
Whoa!
IT, no.
Okay, I see it.
They're like your short soccer shorts, Lottos.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but no, I never had those.
No, never. All right. Time for the audio vault. The best sound of the day, and this one I think is great. Frank Isola covers. He made his living or made his name covering the Knicks for the New York Daily News, but he has expanded. It does have somewhat of a national footprint. He has a show with Brian Scalabrine on Sirius XM Radio on their NBA channel. Now, I am not a Sirius subscriber, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Free radio is the best radio as far as I'm concerned.
Totally with you.
I find it blasphemous to even talk about paid radio. Shame on you. But Frank does have a show. And apparently they're launching a new show on NBA radio, and it's bumping Frank an hour. And Frank is not pleased.
The first place to talk hoops is on the starting lineup with Frank Isola and Brian Scalabrine.
All right, the Kenny Beecham Hour with Kenny Beecham, aptly named. God forbid we name it the Frank Isola, Brian Scalabrine Show, but we've only been doing the show here for about how many years now, Brian? 15. When you walk in first day, they're going to name a show after you. Debuting today at noon Eastern on NBA Radio Channel 86 and the SiriusXM app. And whoever did the read, and Warren wanted me to read this, Brian, he wanted me to write that Mondays just got better, which means our show, they'll be taking an hour off our show. And Warren wants me to write that Mondays just got better because now an hour of our show will be cut.
Can I just tell you one thing? Right now, you need to calm down. just trust me on this one. Just calm down.
Give me a break.
Frank.
Let me ask you a question. Nationally, who's got a bigger name? Brian Scalabrine or Kevin Beecham? Kenny Beecham.
Kenny Beecham.
Who's got a bigger name, me or him?
Kenny Beecham.
Bull.
Frank.
He does PTI? I don't want to hear about Twitter. People buy followers.
Warren, don't just remember. I've told Frank just to go, man. Chill.
Who is he? He's taking an hour of our show. And Warren wants me to write that. It just got better. That we're not going to have an hour of our show.
All right.
Who is he?
Well, I will say this. We are the starting lineup. It does seem like at this point it should be our show, right?
Yeah. And, well, how about you have a new person show up and like he preempts our show and he gets an hour of our show and they name the show after him.
What, you want to get him on air? You want to ask him?
Are you crazy?
Hey, by the way, these afternoons just got a whole lot better, huh?
I love it that he's mad at the promo read, because it's an insult to him.
Afternoons just got a whole lot better. Huh? What?
Who's got a bigger name?
These afternoons just got a whole lot better, huh?
Who's got a bigger name, me or Kevin Beecham?
Yeah.
Kenny Beecham?
By the way, let me pull up Frank Isola here because he actually might. I don't think he has a point. I mean,
did he host PTI?
And I get this a lot. I get a lot of questions from like young media members or people want to get into media and figure out like what to do. I'm like, get on social media, build up your following, Instagram, Twitter. And Twitter's hard to do it now, Instagram, whatever. Kenny Beecham, who admittedly I don't know who Kenny Beecham is. I don't follow him. He is a basketball guy. He has 590,000 followers. Like, here's the thing. He brings an audience with him wherever he goes. There's a ton of value in that. Frank Isola, who has been around my whole life, only has 163,000 followers. Now, that is not the entire job by any means. I'm not pretending it is. But if you want to know why Kenny Beecham has the attention of the people at SiriusXM Radio, it's because he has an enormous reach because he has 590,000 followers. And I bet he could have more on Instagram. So, Frank, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, you're right. He's never done PTI.
You're really mad at Frank here.
Well, Frank's totally wrong.
Well, I just think it's funny Frank's spinning out.
He's
you're
totally
really
off.
upset at Frank.
No, but Frank's
I think it's funny they're making Frank do the read.
That's the best part.
Because nobody has sympathy for Frank. Because apparently nobody likes Frank. You know him a little?
He used to come on the show all the time, and then I met him once.
And he's like a New York guy. This is the attitude that New York guys bring. I do have an understanding, and I've personally been through this before. My first show, my name was not on it for a very long time, and it is not great for you if you don't have your name on the show. Now everybody does know who Frank Isola and Brian Scalabrine is. Brian Scalabrine being the voice of reason here, by the way, really bad sign. Because that guy is never the voice of reason. And the Celtics broadcast is almost unlistenable at times because of Brian. But if he's the guy who's got the calmer head, the cooler head here prevailing, that's a really bad sign for the starting lineup. Is that what they call it?
Still mad at Frank. I actually liked Frank. He was very nice to me.
No, I think Frank's totally good. And a fine writer. I've certainly read him a lot covering the Knicks.
Just for the record. But you know what? Eating unpopular decisions is a big part of this job, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. I've had to eat some Whoppers over the years.
And you've welcomed in people and had a bite taken out of something you've been doing that you probably didn't think was going to work or knew wasn't going to work. And sometimes you say, well, we're going to try it. You've let me try a lot of things on this show that don't work, and I appreciate that.
I'm all about trying. I'm all about swings and misses. But, yeah, you have to eat some bad decisions. That's why I'm so happy I'm not Salazar. Having been a program director, half that job is just taking a bad decision from upstairs and bringing it downstairs. Or at least that was my experience. I haven't been a PD at this company. I actually seems much, much better.
Frank Isola, trying to see if he even has an Instagram page, which I know this is not going to resonate with a lot of people. But everyone's trying to figure out, okay, here's the difference. Everyone's trying to figure out how the next generation of listeners, media consumers are going to be found. And the best answer we have so far right now is probably Instagram. Frank Isola has 4,300 followers. Kenny Beecham has 210,000 followers. With those followers, you get reels, you make money. It's honestly, it's not that difficult to figure out how to do. That's why Kenny Beecham has this job. There's no question about it.
I don't like the followers thing. I really don't. It's all about content. Who has better content? Frank.
I don't know. I wish that was true.
Frank, in his defense, it is true. Frank, if you're talking about radio, if you're talking about producing content, you've never even heard of Kevin Beecham. And who cares how many followers he has? You're dialed into the NBA. His content can't be that good. It hasn't penetrated your not ethos. That's not the right word. Penetrated your
galaxy environment.
Whatever,
yeah,
right?
That's the word I'm looking for.
But Frank Isola, you've known who that guy is since you were 13. So is Frank and Brian doing a good radio show? That's what it matters. Producing content. I mean, you can do all sorts of manipulations and games to build followers and do all that stuff.
But it's so heavily monetized now that the company that gets to make money off of his social media posts, which is what is going to be happening with SiriusXM Radio, they're going to value that more than, oh, well, I really like this 4 o'clock segment. I wish that wasn't the case, but that's what we're going for now. That's what everybody's going for in this biz. And that's exactly what SiriusXM Radio is telling Frank, and he doesn't see it.
Hey, by the way, these afternoons just got a whole lot better, huh?
Yeah, you can keep your Insta talk, whatever.
Hey.
Measurements.
I'm with
different audiences.
It is different audiences.
Entirely different audiences.
Totally
and then
different
speaking
audiences.
of stuff
You're
I've
not
battled
wrong.
throughout my career, like people think that online and social media can replace all this stuff. And it's like, no, it's different people. Like
No, it can't.
what percentage of our audience, which is mainly males, age 25 to 65, what percentage do you think are actually active on a social media platform? I bet it's way lower than you'd think.
Oh, I bet it's way higher than you think.
Oh, I bet it's way lower. How many do you know? I know a lot of people that have like a personal Facebook or a personal Instagram, but calling them active?
Check daily? I bet it's most.
I don't know.
I bet most of our listeners check Instagram daily. It's become that important. And then as you're vying for the next generation of people, it's going to be everybody. I think that's why this battle's existing right now.
All right, stay tuned. We've got Live at 5:05 coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.